So, with all of the Nintendo drama, I don't like using the word drama, but I don't know what better word there is to use for it going on recently, and me mainly being a Nintendo YouTuber. I know I kind of do other stuff, but I feel like I mainly cover Nintendo topics. I wanted to talk about this because as a Nintendo fan since like I was six, I don't know, like 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm now 22, which is what, like 15 years being a fan of the company, and I'm kind of never been more annoyed at them as a consumer than how I am with how they're treating like the Switch 2. So I had pretty positive impressions overall to the Switch 2 Direct. I think they did a phenomenal job showcasing the console, what it has, what it can do, why this is a logical next step from the Switch 1. Mario Kart World, really good part of that. Game looks really fun. And they strategically did not show the price during the Direct. And there are bar two things in the Direct, I think they did an outstanding job. One of those things was, so they showed off showcases for upgrades to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and other games. Those should be free. I think those should be free. There's just like, you buy a new console, you should be rewarded for having bought games 8 years ago and supporting the previous console that this console would not exist without. If I've bought Breath of the Wild 8 years ago at full price, and I buy new hardware, I should be able to play that on new hardware. If you go and you pay 470 euro, I think it is here in Ireland for a Switch, I should not have to pay extra money to play my games on the Switch 2 to take advantage of the new hardware that I have purchased. Imagine you buy let's say 15 games on Steam, and 5 years later, you build a new PC, and now you have to pay even €5 for each of those new games to get access to these features. That would cause riots. I think that's an insane concept. I think, even from a marketing standpoint, an amazing way to get your consumers into this new system is to say, look, tons of people have a Switch 1. Obviously, we all know that. We all know you have Switch 1 games. You probably have Mario Kart. You probably have like a Zelda game. So here is some new free content on the new system. And here is the better performance and the better visuals and like just better overall. This is what the system can do. Now go out and buy our games. That's the one thing that annoys me. Even more, maybe more so than Mario Kart costing €80, actually €90 here if you want to get it physically, which is insane. The second thing, the Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour being €10. I know everyone said it, but man, Wii Sports was free at pack-in for a reason, at least in here in America. I don't think it was in Japan. But there is a reason you pack in something with your console. I bought a PS5 a couple years ago, and Astro's Playroom was packed in with it. Amazing game. I fucking loved Astro's Playroom. It was like genuinely just a reason to get a PS5 on its own. Amazing. Totally free. Probably 20 to 30 hours of content, I want to say. An actual 3D platformer. And Nintendo is asking you to pay €10 on top of the €500 you were already paying for the system to get access to a tutorial. Now, I'm not going to be buying it. And I don't know any of my friends that are getting a Switch 2 that are actually going to be purchasing the Welcome Tour. The only people I've heard saying that are going to purchase the Welcome Tour are YouTubers, which, yeah, like people who do coverage on new Nintendo consoles and games, of course, yeah, that's like your job. Duh. That costing €10 is just ludicrous. And then the big one that everybody is talking about is Mario Kart World. I hear tons of YouTubers saying, oh, this costs $80, you know, which it does. But in Ireland, at least, if you want to purchase this game physically, it costs €90. If you want to get Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you can easily pick it up here for about €45 nowadays. So you're paying double the price for a game with seemingly less content. And the problem I have with this is, as many other people pointed out, there's like 30 tracks in Mario Kart World confirmed so far, and they look really fun. I do think that the game looks really fun. I'm genuinely looking forward to it. And I will be picking up the like Mario Kart World's bundle, which means it actually only costs €40 as opposed to 80. Because the regular Switch is €470 here, I believe, the Switch 2, I should say. And the Mario Kart World bundle is €510, meaning like it's only €40. That's a steal. That's a really good price. That is the only reason I'm purchasing the Switch on launch. If I had to just buy the console and buy Mario Kart World separately, I love Mario Kart, but I'm not paying €90 for it. In fact, if this €10 increase is a thing that happens for all physical Switch games, I'm just going digital. I much prefer physical. All of my games, 90% of my games, bar my PC games, are physical, and I much prefer physical games. They don't take up storage on your system. They're just easier to lend to friends. They're just better overall. I physically like owning my media. But I don't like it so much that I'm going to pay €10 more for it, which is insane. And even bar that, Mario Kart World costing €80 is just insane. I think Doug Bowser and maybe Bill Trinan were interviewed by, like, I don't know, like IGN or GameSpot or, you know, some gaming news place. And they said, keep an eye out for the Mario Kart World Direct. This will hopefully explain why the game is €80. And I genuinely do not mind paying €80 for a game if I think that game justifies it. So, Tears of the Kingdom came out and was €70, but that game was so massive in scope that I didn't mind paying €70 for it. I got easily €70 worth of time out of Tears of the Kingdom. In fact, I'd actually nearly pay €80 for it. Now, that's not giving you a suggestion, Nintendo, even though you have priced the new upgraded version, the Switch 2 version of Tears of the Kingdom at €80. I would pay €70 for Tears of the Kingdom. They've shot, like, it's the Breath of the Wild map, sure, but you have the Sky Islands, and you have an entire underground section. You have new fusion mechanics, fun physics you can mess around with. It's, you know, it's a lot of new content. So I'm totally fine with paying €70 for that. What I'm not fine with is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a 10-year-old game. It has 96 tracks. You show me a new game that has 30 tracks. Sure, it has open world, but a lot of people are actually saying the open world looks kind of boring and you're just driving forward a lot of the time. And then you say, okay, it costs €80. That's a hard pill to swallow. You then go and say, okay, well, look, we think this Direct will explain why it's worth €80. The Direct did not do that. It did not show off anything new. I don't think there was a single thing in the Direct, bar the P-Switch coins and how they actually look, that I did not know about. The rewind thing was covered by someone I heard, I think some YouTuber I watched that went to like an event and had hands-on figure that out. So I knew about that. The costumes we knew about. The, you know, knockout tour we knew about. Rally mode, like everything we knew about. There is nothing in that Direct that was in any way new. Bar the P-Switch coins, which I think is just absurd. Like, that's... What, are you saying that the €20 increase from 60 to €80 is because you can collect coins in the overworld? Like, no. That's crazy. And the physical price of the hardware itself, I'm actually fine with. I think it's fair. If you look at a Steam Deck, a 64GB entry-level Steam Deck, that's €420. That's an LCD Steam Deck. The Switch 2 is apparently in par, power-wise with it. Let's just say it's like, I don't know, 10% give or take. So it's in par, power-wise. You're getting more storage, you're getting a bigger screen, you're obviously getting detachable controllers, you're getting like the Nintendo, access to Nintendo games. So at that stage, yeah, I have no problem with the physical hardware cost. I think €470 is absolutely fine. Now, would it be better if they made it under 450? Absolutely, because I feel like if you're a 6-year-old kid and you're trying to convince your mom to get a console, you can get a regular non-OLED Switch now for like €300, and €300 is a much easier pill to swallow than like €470 with no game. And then come, I think, fall, the Mario Kart World bundle isn't going to be a thing anymore. So that's like, what, 470 plus 80, or like €550? €300 is a much easier price to swallow than €550. So I don't get where they're coming from that perspective. And when they say like, oh, keep an eye out on the Direct will explain the price. It didn't. And you, like, I genuinely didn't expect much from this Direct at all. I was like, it's only 15 minutes. It's probably just gonna be a glorified overview trailer, which is what it was. But when you have like the PR and like president of Nintendo of America telling people that are outraged over the price, oh, this will explain the price. You naturally draw people to assume something big will happen, you know? Like, you don't just say, oh, well, I see people complaining about the price. We're going to explain it in this direct and then expect nothing to be shown. That's just not marketing. And it just feels greedy. And I know there's been tons of examples in the past of Nintendo being greedy with like YouTubers and prices and stuff, but this just feels like insanely so. Charging for a tutorial welcome game, even €10, that should just be packaged in. That's crazy, because I can almost guarantee that that is not going to sell well enough to justify making it €10. Whereas if it was packaged in for free, people would at least have something to do. You know, like Face Raiders on the 3DS or even Street Pass and, you know, games like that weren't like full-on games, but they're something to do with the hardware. All you can do at launch is essentially play Mario Kart World, which is a fantastic game. It has an open world, but it only has 30 tracks. How do you justify charging a consumer €20 more than Switch 1 games, €10 more than like the industry standard for like PS5 and Xbox Series games and PC games, I guess, and then give less content in a sense? I know there's an open world, and that's great, but we haven't even seen 32 tracks. I think we've only seen 29, and Rainbow Road's confirmed, so make that 30. And then I think one of the Grand Prix reuses a track. I think Crown City is used twice. But I just don't see how you can justify that. Of course, every company wants to charge the most for their games, but it's obviously to a point like you can't just charge €300 for a game, because no one will buy it. And I think they're testing the water for this variable pricing model, but this really scares me, because a game like Tears of the Kingdom to me, or I'm trying to think of another game. Tears of the Kingdom is like the best example I can think of. Has so much more content seemingly than Mario Kart World does. Tears of the Kingdom has a whole open world. You can technically drive around the world in Tears of the Kingdom. You can make cars and stuff. It has a whole open world, has a whole story mode, has a ton of content, has cooking, has roaming around, has NPCs, side quests, a day-night cycle, a weather cycle, you know, all of this content. And it was €70. And Breath of the Wild had most of that too, and it was €60, you know? So this just scares me, because why does Mario Kart cost €80? Mario Kart's a great game, but it's not like, you know, I don't feel like it's industry-shatteringly great. Like, Breath of the Wild at the time, 8 years ago, was huge. An open-world Zelda game is huge. An open-world Mario Kart game is cool and fun, if that makes sense. And I'm really looking forward to Mario Kart World, like I said. It's not worth €80. If there was no pack-in, or if there was no sort of bundle, I guess it's kind of a, yeah, it is a bundle. If there was no bundle for the Switch 2 Mario Kart World, I don't think I'd be getting the Switch 2 at all. Because I could just not justify paying €470 for a console with no games, and I mean literally nothing. Like, you can buy a 3DS without a game, and you have Face Raiders, and you have Street Pass, and you can mess around with making these. If you buy a Switch 2 for €470, you actually cannot do anything with it. Can you play your Switch 1 games? Yeah. But you have to pay to unlock the hardware cost. Like, you have to pay €20 more to use your new hardware with your pre-existing games. So you have already bought a game, and you buy this new console, and you can play it on the new console, but it's absolutely no different from playing it on the old console, seemingly. So why have you bought the new console? Just for the bigger screen? No. Like, I mean, if anything, it's a downgrade technically if you have an OLED, because you're going from OLED to LCD. So you have to pay another €10 or €20 to unlock better performance, which is just incredibly greedy. I don't think there's any, like, the PS5 is the best example. PS4 games, a lot of them have got free patches for PS5. What comes to mind is like Final Fantasy VII Remake. That got a free performance patch, right? Runs better on PS5, etc. And you get it for free. If you put like your PS4 Final Fantasy VII Remake disc into your PS5, it will upgrade for free. And then you have to pay separately for the DLC, which is totally fair. Give people the option. I don't think it's worth paying €20 for what's essentially a map on your phone and some voice acting notes is essentially all I can see. And I don't think I'm even going to use them. I don't think that's worth €20. Let the hardware sell the game upgrade, if that makes sense. Instead of the game upgrade selling and stuff, like, you shouldn't need to justify, oh, spend €20 and you get like Zelda notes and you get a map on your phone. No, like, you don't need to do that. You can just do what Sony did and let people play their pre-existing games that they've already given you money for and have already supported you for over the past 8 years, put them into their Switch 2 and be like, wow, this looks and runs so much better. I can't wait to see what the company does with the Switch 2 and what third parties do. But instead, they've created this just atmosphere that's like, oh, pay more. Pay more to, like, you pay for the console, that's not enough. You have to pay for each game you want to upgrade, which is insane to me. Absolutely insane. I think that's about all I wanted to say in relation to Switch 2. I know some people have differing thoughts on this and stuff, but I am really curious what people think, because I have a good amount of friends that aren't buying the Switch 2 because of this price, and I don't blame them at all. Like, it's kind of insane for the price of games. Again, the hardware price I'm actually relatively okay with. I guess that about wraps it up, which is a perfect ending point because the direct runtime is just over. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think, like, paying 20, I think it's 10 or 20 or for these upgraded versions of games is worth it? Because I think these should be free. You shouldn't have to pay to use the hardware you've already bought. There's no reason for that. If PCs did that, if Steam did that, people would riot. Like, oh, we've detected you're on a new PC with more powerful hardware, pay €5 to use it. No, people would riot. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. That's just my ramblings, a very rambly style video. I just want to know what people think, because I will be getting a Switch 2 at launch, because I really like Mario Kart, and the actual bundle deal is a good price. It's €510, which I'm fine paying for the Switch 2 and Mario Kart World, but I don't know. Part of me is hoping that Nintendo doesn't sell well with this and has to do a 3DS price slash type of situation, because this really scares me for future games. Can you imagine the next big open world Zelda game? Say it's like, hopefully it's not set in Hyrule, or it's a new Hyrule, or it's set in somewhere else. Next big open world Zelda game, what's that going to cost? Like €100 physical? That's crazy. A normal edition of a game being €100 physical is insane. Anyway, let me know in the comments. Take care, have a good one, and I will see you in like 4 years when I make another video. Ciao.